People are often told that war is a sacrifice that must be made for our safety and security. But what if I told you there's another reason America keeps getting involved in conflicts around the world? To find out, we have to go back to June 28, 1914, the day our story began, when the heir to the throne of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, Archduke Franz Ferdinand, and his wife, Sophie, arrived by train in Sarajevo, which was the capital of Bosnia. During this time, Bosnia was occupied by the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Upon leaving the train, they took a car of a group of 6 cars. The group of cars started moving as people on both sides of the road cheered them on. Along the road where the Archduke was supposed to go, a young Bosnian Serb named Gavrilo Princip and 5 other people were waiting the Archduke, but when one of them tried to kill him and failed, chaos and tension broke out, and Gavrilo was sad that the chance he had been waiting for had been lost. After that, he decided to buy some food at a nearby restaurant. Then all of a sudden, right in front of the restaurant, he saw the Archduke's car right in front of him. The poor driver was trying to get away by taking back roads. At the time, the young Serb took out his gun and shot the young couple, killing them on the spot. Even though this assassination story was thrilling in the first half and darkly funny at the end, it was the spark that set Europe on fire. Later that day, with Germany's backing, Austro-Hungarian Emperor resolved to strike back against Serbia with a war of aggression. In just a few days, the conflict escalated when Germany attacked France through Belgium and declared war on Russia for supporting Serbia. The First World War officially began when Britain declared war on Germany. The conflict was fought primarily between 2 groups, Allied powers, France, Britain, and Russia. After that, Italy and Japan joined them. US didn't even enter the war until about a year before it was over. And Central Powers, Germany, Austria-Hungary. After the war started, other countries, like the Ottoman Empire, Bulgaria, joined them. At the time, the United States was the only country able to stand by and observe the conflict without getting involved. We will present only 2 examples to show how the United States takes advantage of international crises and wars to boost its economy while remaining as militarily neutral as possible. World War I and the Russo-Ukrainian War are 2 examples of wars that happened between them for nearly 100 years, and the United States is still the same. It has a great ability to use global crises to its advantage, rerun them, and even make new ones to get what it wants. So how did World War I help the United States become the economic superpower of the world? How did the war between Russia and Ukraine help its economy, and how did it make the most of it? Here, we'll only talk about one part, the natural gas file. These are some of the important questions we'll try to answer in today's video. Before starting, I'd like you to subscribe if you haven't already. Your support helps us grow and improve. When the First World War started in 1914, it was fought all over the world. President Woodrow Wilson of the United States declared strict and impartial neutrality, which meant that the United States did not take sides in the war in Europe. The American people didn't want their country to get involved in a war far away from home. Nevertheless, one can say that America's claim to be neutral was not true. After Germany broke the agreement not to attack passenger ships and merchant ships, the United States did not send in the military, but it did send in money to help. How did this happen? I'm going to tell you. Before the war started, most of the European countries that were fighting in both camps had good finances. They had a big surplus of money, good assets, and investments in other countries. But after a few months, everyone was tired of the war, especially as the battle lines grew and changed. The war went on for a long time because neither side could quickly win it. At that time, Britain and France asked the US to help them by giving them loans and other goods. In fact, the US didn't mind, but there was one small problem. How could it help them when its official position in the war was that it would not take sides? In this case, the US Treasury promised both the British and the French, we would be in service, but the transactions would not be conducted on an official basis, so that we don't get accused of being dishonest. We would work with you through a broker in the US who works for us and gives you what you need. In fact, in January 1915, the British government approved American banker John Morgan, who was the head of the J.P. Morgan Bank, to be its agent in the United States and to do all of its financial deals, such as loans, deals for commodities, and other deals. 5 months later, the same lucky guy in the French government made the same deal. In fact, Mr. Morgan helped France and Britain get loans from American banks and investors. He also gave them the things they needed, like food, clothes, cotton, oil, and weapons. Before the start of World War I in 1914, the American economy was sluggish. There were big economic problems, the financial system was unstable, and there were violent racial and labor conflicts. After the war started, all of this changed. The British and French both bought a lot of American goods. American factories shifted from making things for civilians to making things for the military. In order to feed and clothe the armies that were fighting in Europe, American peasants grew more food and cotton. Just 2 years after the war began, U.S. exports to countries that were on the same side as the U.S. almost doubled. Morgan had been borrowing money from American investors behind the scenes to help Britain and France. After the loans were approved, he bought American goods for both countries and sent them to Europe by sea. Mr. Morgan got paid twice by the British and the French. Once when he helped them get loans, and again when he bought goods from the U.S. Later on, in August 1915, the value of the British pound and the French franc dropped quickly and kept going down. This was terrible because they used their currency to buy goods. Since things kept getting worse, their currencies would be worthless, so it wouldn't be acceptable to American investors and producers. As a guarantee for the value of the sterling and the franc, Britain, France, and Russia agreed to send gold to the United States. This is what the Boulogne Agreement, which was signed by the three countries on August 22, 1915. At the time, the British Empire was still the world's biggest economic power, but it was losing that position to the United States. In short, during the war, Britain was the country that was hurt the most. It paid for the things it bought from the U.S. in two ways: by taking out loans and by selling financial assets in the U.S. that it or its people owned. At the same time, it used to send gold to the U.S. to boost the sterling, and its gold reserves were almost gone. At last, with the war over, Europe was literally teeming with its wreckage. Many men and women were killed or wounded, and the industrial infrastructure of the British, French, and German empires was wiped out. Obviously, this is on top of the billions of dollars in outstanding U.S. loan debt. As a quick example of how was industrial infrastructure destroyed, we can look at France. The northeastern part of France was the most industrialized part of the whole country. It was the most important industrial region in France. After the war, that area was all burned up. It was completely destroyed by the war and the German occupation. Millions of people worked with machines and tools, and most of them died because of the war. Even those who managed to stay alive were paralyzed or had permanent disabilities. In addition to all of this, France owed the United States and Britain billions of dollars. As well, Britain owed a lot of money to the United States. Noteworthy is the fact that the United States, which was a debtor nation prior to war, transformed into a major creditor nation afterward. Germany, Britain, France, and Russia, which were the four most powerful countries in Europe, destroyed each other. On the other hand, the USA came out of the war as the country with the most gold in the world. It used this gold to keep the dollar strong against the sterling pound, which lost value after Britain gave the USA its gold. All of these things made America a great economic power, and after World War II, its economic power was stronger than ever. Since then, it has been the world's biggest economic power, a power that is built in large part on taking advantage of wars and other conflicts that happen around the world. The most recent example is the Russian-Ukrainian War, which is the second scene in today's video. As we recently saw, Russia played its last card by completely cutting off gas to Europe. This happened at a very important and sensitive time, as Europeans are getting ready for winter and have no other way to fuel their tanks with natural gas. The United States is the country that stands to gain the most from this crisis. Keep in mind that in 2021, natural gas exports from the United States hit a level that had never been reached before in American history. We're talking about the 6.65 quadrillion cubic feet of natural gas that the U.S. has sent to 41 other countries. Since 2017, the United States has sent a lot of natural gas to other countries. So, for the sixth year in a row, it is a net exporter of gas. In 2021, something happened that was the first of its kind when it came to American gas. It was the first time that U.S. LNG exports were more than pipeline gas exports, which is a very important fact in the situation we are in now. Not only that, but the Energy Information Administration says that the United States was also the world's biggest exporter of liquefied natural gas in the first half of 2022. After Russia invaded Ukraine at the end of February 2022, it was fairly obvious that American energy companies wanted to take over European natural gas markets. Companies like Chevron, ExxonMobil, Shell, and Cheniere Energy have wanted to send more natural gas to Europe for a long time. Who was getting in their way? Yes, Russia, whose government owns the huge gas company Gazprom. As you know, about 40% of Europe's natural gas needs were met by Russia. Germany, which has the largest economy in Europe, got almost half of its gas from Russia. Countries like the Czech Republic and Romania relied on Russian gas for all of their energy needs. So, in order for US companies to get into the European market, Russia's Gazprom had to get out of the way. The war between Russia and Ukraine was the best time to do this, because it will not only hurt Russia's relationship with Europe over natural gas, but it will also cause prices to go through the roof, allowing these companies to make billions of dollars in profits. In fact, in the months after the war, the decades-long cooperation between Russia and Europe on the natural gas issue started to break down. Prices went from an average of $16 per million British thermal units in 2021 to nearly $100 per million British thermal units in late August 2022. Gazprom reduced supplies through Nord Stream 1, Europe's largest pipeline, and halted shipments to countries that did not accept paying in rubles after Western sanctions hit Russia's economy. On September 2022, Russia said that all gas supplies to Europe would be turned off immediately. That's a huge problem for Europe, but who is going to go in and supply Europe with gas in place of Russia? The United States, that's right. On a visit to Europe, President Joe Biden assured European leaders that the United States will assist Europe in securing its supplies of liquefied natural gas to make up for the lack of Russian gas. One issue with American liquefied gas is that it is more expensive for Europe to import than Russian gas because of transportation costs. So, American gas suppliers couldn't compete with Russian gas under normal circumstances. There was no way to get Europe to stop using Russian gas and switch to American gas, but this changed after war. According to data from the U.S. Energy Information Administration, about 71% of U.S. LNG exports went to Europe and Britain in the first 5 months of 2022. In the same time period of 2021, only about 30% of U.S. LNG exports went to Europe and Britain. Russia and the U.S. are in a gas war over the European market, and the war between Russia and Ukraine was a major turning point. For the first time in history, the European Union bought more LNG from the U.S. than natural gas from Russia through pipelines. This has never happened before in history. Here's a critical question. Why do U.S. gas suppliers want to sell to Europe when their first market has always been Asia? Europe is a rich market that pays well and has a lot of gas needs. It is also close to the United States, unlike other poor Asian countries that are far away, like Pakistan and India. So, American gas companies have made more money than they ever have before. A report from Business Insider on August 13, 2022 says that American energy companies and traders are making huge profits by selling natural gas to Europe. This is because prices in Europe are going up at the same time that European governments are trying to fill their storage tanks before winter. Each shipment brings in up to $200 million in profits. A shipment is a large ship that is filled with liquefied gas from the US for $60 million, but the price of the gas goes up to $275 million once the ship crosses the Atlantic Ocean to Europe. American companies have made billions of dollars in a few months after war. Because of this, we now hear in the media in Europe that the US is pretending to be a savior while making a lot of money by selling gas to Europe at high prices. In the end, the United States made billions of dollars by lending and selling goods to Europe during World War I, which was almost 100 years ago. Even so, it still does this and sells gas to Europe, which brings in billions of dollars. This is just a small part of all the benefits Americans get, since the benefit isn't just about gas. There are other contracts with businesses, the military, etc. Last but not least, I have a question for you. Do you think Europe can go back 2 steps by talking to Russia again? Will the Russian gas be put back into the pipelines, or Europeans no longer trust the Russians, and they can't go back to getting their gas from Russia? Share your thoughts in the comments. I hope you liked the video. Hit the like button and share the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Goodbye.